Hello and welcome to The Rest is Football with me, Gary Lineker, Alan Shearer and Micah Richards. It's our question episode and let's get right into it. We've got one from Enda O'Rourke. How do you feel about the dark arts of football, such as time wasting, feigning injury, rolling about, etc.? It seems that every year this works against Premier League teams in Europe. How do players not just lash out? Perhaps the best example would be Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone. Love the pod. Oh, thank you very much, Enda.
It's very nice, Enda. Thanks. It is, isn't it? The dark arts. I mean, we spoke on a previous, didn't we, about Simeone and David Beckham, and that he sort of fell for it and cost the England team, etc., whatever, and we got beaten on penalties. I've actually got his shirt, you know. I've got Simeone's shirt from that game.
Oh my!
I was moving house. I sold my house a couple of years ago, and I said to my son, I don't know what's in the loft, but I can't get up there now. You're going to have to go up there for me. And he came down with two black bin liners full of old tops. And I said, I'm just going to chuck them. Because I was like frustrated. I just chuck them in the skip. I don't want them. He said, you can't chuck them out, Dad. Anyway, he went through them all, and Simeone's top was in there, so he's got that now. So in the current play, he's probably sat on an absolute fortune on Simeone's top, the way the tops are being sold for nowadays.
I'll tell you what, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, I might ask for it back off him, actually.
Did you get him to sign it, Alan?
He's already flogged it, Al. I didn't know whether you know.
Well, he owes me a few quid if he has.
He certainly does.
The dark arts,
The dark arts. I prefer the word Townsend.
What a word that is.
But we've all done it, though. We've all tried to waste time. It is what it is.
You ever feigned injury? Roll around the ground like a...
No. Have you?
I would only have done that if I was absolutely knackered towards the end of a game and needed 2 minutes rest. So someone kicks you and you think, I can't get up. And you just go, I'll just sit down for a minute and get a bit of treatment. I probably did that 2 or 3 times, but only because of exhaustion. Towards the end of a game on a hot day or something like that. And before you start, us strikers do get tired too. We have to make a lot of runs, Micah. It's all part and parcel of it. Right. Here's a good question from Rachel Hurdson. Who would win a 100-metre sprint between you three if it was held tomorrow? Well, I would think Big Meeks, because he's half our age.
I'm not sure, I'm carrying a bit of timber now, Gary.
Well, true.
I'd be leading for about 5 yards and then I'd be knackered.
You wouldn't. I'd be leading after 5 yards. Yeah, because you've just admitted you can't even get up to the loft.
That is true.
And at least now I know what to buy you for Christmas to get you one of what they call those Stenner chairlifts, is it? Have you bought a bungalow, Alan? Is it a bungalow, your new place where you moved into?
Oh, brilliant.
It wouldn't be a pretty sight, would it, us three having a race?
Wow.
Yeah. It would actually, who would be the first to collapse?
Yeah, 100 metres is quite like... I think I'd win. Yeah.
We should set it up, Should we have a charity race for 100 feet?
That, Micah, don't mention stupid things.
We've got a question here, and I've just spotted it. It says, what are the biggest obstacles in life and in football that you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome them? The question is from Queen Guna. I've got a feeling I know who that is. That might be Sophia, who did the autocue. Massive football fan, big Arsenal, very good friend of mine actually.
She's great.
She's brilliant. Great personality. I think it's a bit deep.
Injuries for me?
Not for me. I was looking on the injury front, but I would actually go. My eldest boy George was got contracted leukemia when he was 2 months old, and that was incredibly difficult to handle in terms of not just life but playing football as well. That was tough. I mean, he was 6 weeks old, and he developed a little bump on his head, and we thought it was a bit weird because it was really hard. So we took him to the doctors, and they said, well, we need to take a biopsy to make sure it's, They said, but it does look like this kind of skin condition, that some unpronounceable name. He said, come back in, we'll get an appointment in 2 weeks, we'll get them sent off. And then we came back 2 weeks later, and the 2 doctors were in the room, and they said, well, good news, it's come back as this skin condition that we thought it was. And I said, well, hang on a minute. I said, in the last 10 days since we saw you, he's got more of these bumps and stuff, but he also appears to be pretty unwell. And they went, oh, really? I said, yeah, he says his glands are up and stuff like that. So they took off his kind of little outfit and his nappy and all this, and they looked at, they sort of examined him a little bit, and I'll never forget it. They just looked at each other, and you could see their faces completely change. And they went, well, I'm really sorry, but this does look to be something much more serious. So I said, well, what do you mean? What is it? He said, obviously we need to do the tests first, and blood tests and platelets tests and all these things. He said, but it does look like leukemia. So at that stage, his mother and I, we were just like, you hear that word. I wasn't an expert. I knew it was some form of like a blood cancer. And it was within 10 minutes, we were in the back of an ambulance on the way to Great Ormond Street. And on that night, they were very frank and honest and open, and basically told us our son had not much chance. They put it somewhere between a 10 and 20% chance of survival. But and it was brutal. I remember, and we were in the hospital until about 2 or 3 in the morning, and eventually Michelle stayed with him, and they were doing tests, and I went home because there wasn't anywhere for me to sleep. So, and I'd let Terry Venables know, who's then manager of Tottenham, and he was brilliant. He said, just forget about football. Just leave it. Doesn't matter. This is way more important. He said, I'll come and pick you up in the morning and take you into the hospital. And when I woke up that morning, there were about like 20 photographers, TV crews. I don't know where they got wind of it from. Probably, it could have been anyone saw us going to the hospital or whatever it was. Terry picked me up. We went to the hospital, and I was kind of there for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't play any football. But actually what I found when I did come back to start to train with the club again and play matches was that it was actually one time in my life where football was even more important than it already was, because it was the only time I could switch it off and not be in my head. But, there's a happy ending in this story that George, he rallied. I mean, 2 or 3, I think there were 2 occasions or maybe even 3 when they told us that they didn't think he'd probably make it through the night. And so that's easily the most brutal experience. But, eventually he's 32 now, he's fit, he's strong, and he's doing brilliantly. But at the same,
good ending.
It is a good ending. But at the same time, there were people on the ward, and we lived through it, that children didn't make it. So yeah. Sorry to bring that down a bit more.
Well, we're not going to go after that, Al. We're not going to top that story. Well told.
I felt guilty saying my injuries now.
Well, I think that's what the question was probably more meant to be, but it just brought that into my mind in a way. But he's doing great. Right. David Finch, which current footballer best replicates the playing style of each of the 3 legends on this podcast? 3 legends. Ooh.
Oof, legends now.
Yeah.
Well, Erling Haaland.
Yeah. Haaland, eh?
Erling Haaland.
Yeah, well, I can see.
Haaland,
I can't see any similarities.
He's got pace. What are you talking about?
Micah, when I was 21, I was the quickest around. 22.
Yeah.
No, honestly.
Really?
I was, yeah. Mind you were quick as well, Gaz, eh?
Yeah, I was quick. Yeah.
Very quick.
Yeah. I did some TV thing, a local thing, and they're on a proper track and with proper running spikes and all that, and did kind of 10.65 or something. I was rapid.
Ooh.
I was rapid. Which was just as well because I didn't have much of a touch. Couldn't dribble past anyone. Just knock it and charge, knock it and run.
You, Micah.
Micah would have been quick, built like a sprinter.
I was rapid. I was like a Reece James without the technique.
Without the technique.
That's what I was like, wasn't I? I could play right back, could play centre right over free, but he's got the crossing ability, hasn't he? I didn't have that. I'd say Reece James for me.
Rennie Gunter says, what was your favourite international football ground to play at and why? Which one did you hate? Ooh, Bernabeu was amazing. I'd say Barcelona, but it was kind of home club ground. San Siro. Did you ever play at the Maracanã, Alan?
I didn't, no. No,
neither. I got injured. I couldn't play when England played Brazil when John Barnes scored the wonder goal there. Way back when.
What were you? So you were injured then, were you?
Yeah, I was left out. I couldn't travel, which was a bummer because everyone wanted to play in Brazil at the Maracanã. Bit special. Yeah.
Allianz Arena.
Yeah.
Oh,
Munich.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still got nightmares about that place right now. It's sending shivers down my spine.
Did you have a bad one there?
Getting twisted up by Robben and Ribéry. And if that's not enough, Alaba on the over. Oh, my word.
Micah, did you actually ever have a good game?
I'm not a high level one, no. So basically, anyway, we're at Bayern. And there was a stat. Someone said, do you remember that game when you was at Allianz Arena and you won the game? And I was like, I've never been to Allianz Arena and won a game. And what it was, I got subbed in the first 10 minutes. I did my hamstring and they went on to win. And I never want a manager to bring me off. But in that game, I probably could have played on for another 10 minutes. I was like, get me off. Get me off. My career's getting exposed right now. I can't do this. I can't do this any longer.
Oh, dear. They were, Ribéry and Robben, no.
Ooh, it was that Bayern team has got to be up there with one of the best teams. Who did they have? They had Muller, Ribéry, Robben. Who did they have? Philipp Lahm. What is going on? He's a right back. He was the first one. Everyone talks about this right back coming into midfield. Lahm's been doing that for years.
Guardiola got him to do it, though.
Yes, Guardiola got him to do it. But yeah, he's been doing it for years. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Schweinsteiger would have been around as well.
Schweinsteiger, but at his best. People remember Schweinsteiger at Man United. At his best, he was phenomenal.
Let's have a halftime breather. Welcome back to the Rest is Football. It's our questions episode. To get as many of them in as possible, I'll go straight into them again. Dave Day says, have you ever had an altercation or spoken to fans who have been upset with the team? I know Big Meeks once spoke to Villa fans at a game. Did you? What, on the tannoy?
Yeah. I spoke to Villa fans at a game in the Cup. I think it was FA Cup.
Was it an apology?
It was an apology, yes. It was a time where things were a little bit sticky at Aston Villa. And I just owed it to them to explain the situation that we are trying. I know we're shit, but we are trying, you know? We're not going home and just putting it to the back of our mind. We feel it.
How did you go about that? It wasn't at in the crowd. Was it?
So basically, we was at, I think it was Luton. Was it Luton? No, it was not Luton. Was it Walsall? One of them teams. I'll get the name. I'll do the pickup. But we went there, and I was man of the match. You know, I'd scored a goal in that game. I remember a match of the day. Give me a nice little write up again. I remember it.
We were good to you.
They brought me off. Yeah, you were good to me. It was Alan Hansen, actually. He was doing a piece because I was playing right back stroke centre half, but in that game I was playing right back. So he did all the good stuff about me going forward, but taking a little bit longer to get back. Just got exposed a little bit sometime on the recovery run. I remember it like it was yesterday. So in that game, they brought me off and they was giving loads of abuse to the team. And I just went over and said, basically, like, we are trying. I know it doesn't look like it or feel like to you. We want to do the best we can do. And all the fans was applauding me for coming over and speaking to them. But that's not the altercation I was talking about.
What is?
It was away. FA Cup. You know the early rounds. Fantastic. BBC, we do it better than anyone when it comes to the FA Cup. And it was at Kidderminster. Kidderminster were playing... I can't even remember who the team was. It was away at Kidderminster. Because I remember on my social media, I've got Kiddy here massive, everywhere we go. Kiddy here massive, everywhere we go. So, we're walking
Everywhere
in.
we go.
Yeah, everywhere we go. Alan knows
Everywhere we go.
We get there, and you get there about 2-3 hours before the game. Because you might be doing some analysis, you might not go through your clips and all this sort of stuff. So as I'm looking magnificent. I've got my suit on. I'm dressed to the nines. I've got my bag, and I've got like a suit carrier. So as I'm walking, so this bag is nice. I've not got it here,
Well, of course it is, Mike.
I'll put it on social. It's a Lamborghini bag. Lamborghini sent me. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. It's a Lamborghini bag. It's like a little travel
a little car
holder.
that you carry your clothes in.
Just a little Lamborghini bag. And I kid you not, the security guard who's supposed to be protecting me said, "Where'd you get that bag from for all the money that you stole at Aston Villa?" so I'm
He
like,
knew his stuff.
I'm thinking to myself, has he just really just said that to me? He's supposed to be taking me to the trucks so I can do my analysis, and he's giving me abuse. So I've said, "What did you say?" He only doubles down and says it again. So I'm thinking to myself now,
He's got a point.
I'm thinking, to be fair, he has got a point. But anyway, I said, "Go on, say that again if you're hard." He says it again. I walk. He's walking to me, and I'm walking closer to him, and I'm thinking to myself, like, he's a big lad. He's security. Like, but I've got to protect myself. Yeah. So, like, he comes up to my face, and as he's about, he didn't try to hit me, but he's seen how big I was when I was there, and he absolutely himself. I'm effing and jeffing. I'm saying, "You effing this, you effing that, you bag. You thought I wasn't going to come back to you. Now look at you," and whatnot. And in the end, he apologised, but apparently he got sacked. And I said to him, I don't want him to sack it. I said, if we're going to have a scrap as men, let's have a scrap and move on. I don't want him sacked from that, but that's how bad it got. That's how bad it got.
Micah, wait, I was there that day. I did that game.
Do you remember, Alan? And I come back in all ruffled. And 2 minutes later, I'm in the crowd doing a segment with the fans, and Steve Houghton was the editor on that day, and he was like, "Mike, are you all right? Are you okay to do this? Do you need to send you?" I'm like, don't worry, Steve. I'm totally fine.
I've found the clip, Micah.
Have you got the clip?
The clip. Yeah, here it is. Hang on. Well, you can see that there. There you are, talking to the fans after the game.
Oh, is that who was that game?
Against.
Who was it against, guys?
It was against Wickham.
Wickham
Wanderers. There you are.
Wickham Wanderers.
You're talking to the fans there. Can't see your Lamborghini bag.
I don't know what all the fuss was about. You worship it, fella. You're right. You nicked all their money.
I started giving it. The thing is, I was at my lowest moment as well. You've brought back all these bad memories. I made him feel bad. I made him feel really, really bad.
Question from Elliot Linden. Players these days have private chefs and nutritionists helping with their careers. How much better do you think you'd have been in your career with today's focus on nutrition and well-being? Do players all have private chefs? Is that right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Oh, wow.
And it's maybe not just private. They would sometimes get the food from the chefs at the training ground.
Yeah, well, which is slightly different.
Slightly different, but it's still a chef. But they would just pay them to do something. at the evening, especially if you live alone.
Yeah.
As well.
I had a problem with my hip about 7 or 8 months ago, and it was so painful. Wherever I walked, I was thinking, oh. And anyway, I asked the physio at Newcastle if he could fix me with an appointment, and he sent me to a podiatrist. Believe it or not.
Really?
So I go there, and they walk me on the computer and everything else, and he said, "Oh, you're collapsing in on your right hand side. I'm putting too," and like so basically what he said to me, he said, if you had the technology back in your day, there was no way that you would have had half the injuries that you had.
Wow.
So I think, Jesus, with what they've got now, and they can tell before they're going to get injured, and they do this for them and they do that, and it's like, oh my God, technology is so much better now in terms of that and predicting injuries or not getting injuries.
You wouldn't need that lift to take you up the stairs, would you? If you...
That is true, yeah. Anyway, he built a sole in my foot, and I've never had a problem with my hip since. So, yeah, the technology they have is amazing.
Probably the biggest change that one of the things that you look back on and with hindsight, and if I knew what I knew now, I don't know about you, Alan, but when I started playing stuff, they used to work on you, like strength in your legs and all this, but I was always told, do not do any upper body weights and all that, because you'll lose your kind of, you won't be as mobile, or you'll be a bit stiff and wooden, which is absolutely complete cobblers, because you look at all the players now, they're all ripped, aren't they? They're all kind of but we were told to do so. I'd never really had any upper body muscle at that point. I mean, with your legs it was different, but I mean, I used to get knocked over quite a bit, particularly when I was breaking through, because I was fairly diminutive. But I didn't have the upper body strength that the players now have to actually ward off. So that's the one area that I can think of that's probably changed.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question from Daniel Hogan. Who is the best player never to receive a call up to the national team? That's quite hard, isn't it? Because pretty much everyone gets called up if you're good. Can you think?
Steve Bruce didn't.
You stole it, Alan. You stole it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Steve Bruce, really.
That's the only it's the one I can think of.
It was mad because when we was at Aston Villa, and he was the manager, Steve Bruce, wasn't he? And we was having a bit of a banter back and forth and whatnot. And if you know Steve, really top guy. But he's not having himself, but he's confident, He talks about his time at United and how good he was and all that sort of stuff. And I just remember we was in training and he was giving a bit. And I've turned around and said, you didn't play for England though, did you? And he absolutely wanted to kill me. But he took it well. Great lad.
Jacko H asks, what is your favourite era in football history? And are you concerned about the direction football is heading in?
R9 era.
I think we all remember the eras as we grow up a bit, don't we? It's like it was that magical thing that you'd occasionally see on the telly. So, I mean, it probably wasn't the best era for football, but in my mind it was like 1970 World Cup. The first time we had a coloured telly at home. My dad used to play cards every week at the house, and my mum used to make the food for everyone, and they used to play all night. They never stopped for anything, but they did stop this one night to watch Germany versus England in the quarterfinal of the World Cup. And England were 2-up, and then the Germans came back and beat us in extra time, 3-2. And I was distraught. I remember I was crying and everything, and all the blokes, they just went, right, back to playing cards. And they started and played all
that was it.
Yeah. Amongst them was one Engelbert Humperdinck, which is
really,
really. He was Jerry Dorsey, I think was his real name, or Engel as they used to call him. So he used to come around quite frequently, play cards with my dad. Before he probably ever ended up in Vegas, and superstar that he was. So, strange fact of my life.
Yeah. Well, I always remember, I mean, maybe not the best era, but I remember when I probably told you this story before, when I was leaving Blackburn in '96, and I remember Tim Sherwood saying, about the price that I was going for the 15 million, and I said, "There's probably never ever going to be a better time to be a footballer than now." You know how wrong I was, eh?
You so often are, Alan.
Oh my word! Goodness me!
Are we worried about where the game's heading? I think actually the football itself nowadays, for all sorts of reasons, for the technology, the pitches, all sorts of things, is technically as good as it's ever been, isn't it?
I think the players at England, especially, are producing are better technical players. But if I look at like England teams of the past, or the Brazil, look at the French team when you had Vieira and Petit and Henry and Zizou, and then you had a Brazil team where you had R9, Rivaldo,
Ronaldinho.
Yeah, so I always think the old era, maybe it's because I'm just getting older, is always a little bit better. Maybe I can...
Although when you get to our age, Micah, you just forget everything. So.
Hey, hang on a minute. In your age, not our age.
You ain't far behind, Al.
But even look at the England team. So, like, now you can relate to Bellingham, maybe Maddison, Grealish. But, like, before, when you had Shearer and Gascoigne, and who was at the back in them? You had Rio coming through, didn't you? You had JT. I don't know. There was something. Pierce. Yeah, Pierce. There's something that I could relate to them. I don't know if it's because I'm closer to these ones now, but just being young, looking up to them players. Maybe it's just nostalgia.
I think it is a bit different. Yeah. I think that's a good place to finish, with a bit of nostalgia on The Rest is Football. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Cheers.